going to hit our. All right. So I am so honored to be back at our play chapter this month. I do want to let you know right up in the front, and I'll remind you at the end as well, that there will be no December meeting. We want you to have all the time to be with your family and enjoy the festivities in whatever way, shape, or form that you may be joining in that. And if you need a place to come enjoy some festivities, come on over to the East Coast. I'll be happy to house you. I'll bake cookies and we'll just enjoy the season together. So really, really very grateful to have those that are with us tonight. Walter, you're looking very dapper, my friend, today in your yellow sweater. And so again, so you can see this little one behind me. When I tend to do videos in some of my classes, she's not meant to be a distraction. She utilizes this time to be creative. She brings all of her materials. She has, what do you have out today? Paper, glue, tape, markers, googly eyes, scissors. I'm not sure what else she drags out. And while we create, she creates. And I think that's just such a great life lesson when children mimic what's quality and what they see in adults' lives that are healthy choices, that are self-expression choices, that help them get their brains organized in a calming manner. She had a little bit of an anxiety concern today, and we had to work through that. And so this has really been able to let her just de-stress. Are you having fun? What are you building tonight? Here, let me see. Can I share? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's I know. So you know how we have virtual backgrounds on Zoom? So she has decided to create me a background tonight.
I love it.
And so she's made these little hooks. Go ahead and finish that. So there we go. You have it. Oh, you might have to move it a little bit. So anyway, you will see her in the background a little bit later on when we do some play. A quick overview of tonight. We have a phenomenal guest that's going to be speaking with us on mental health. And people say, well, this is the play chapter. Why mental health? And well, as we know, if we are not connected internally within ourselves and to those around us, it's really hard to move forward. And there are sometimes some blockages, even as early as infant and toddler mental health. And so I know that Noemi is going to be joining us from the Health Collaborative, and I've had the honor to be working with her in the pop-up summits over this past summer. And every single time I walked in there, I learned something new. Literally every time I saw her, there was a nugget every time. And the nugget was, okay, I love that book, which I'm not going to give away because she may not be able to tell the whole thing, or there was this nugget of looking at like these emotions in the wheel. And then there was this nugget every time. And I thought, we need to bring this to the table. We need to bring this to the wider audience and let them hear the wonderful news that's out there and the strategies. Now, she has this opportunity to present in like days training, like 1 and 2 day trainings. And at the pop-up summit, it was like down to about 45 minutes, an hour at the most. And now here we're going to make it teeny tiny in about a half an hour. So my plug to say this is that if you really appreciate her items of conversation or topics, she'll put her contact information in the chat today, both at the beginning and the end of her presentation, and so that you're able to reach out to her either with your own questions or in your schools or whatever you need. So Noemi Marquez, you live where? Remind me.
I'm from Miami.
Okay, that's where I thought. She's deep south.
Deep south. In the other country that is Miami.
We had to do one of our pop-up summits. We're in the Panhandle. And so we all there, and it's just a different world in between those two places. So Noemi, I just want to thank you so much again for being here. We're going to let you take the floor for the next about 30 minutes. And do you need to screen share at all?
I can. So
that's up to you.
Stuff. Yeah, let's do that.
right, let me
It's
see if
just
I can-
us. I know Dr. Drew has already seen all my stuff. So we can do it however we would like to do it because it's such a small group.
Sure.
So we can probably put some stuff up, some chatting, and then I'll try to make my stuff as brief as possible so you guys we can all chat together about this stuff. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
Good.
Yeah.
By the way, welcome, Kelly. It's great to see you too.
Good to see you too, Julie.
Very nice to see you. And, all right,
Cool. Oh, I was putting ahead.
you're welcome to go, my dear.
Okay. So first, I know Julie, I know Dr. Drew. I'm thrilled to meet you, Renee and Kelly. What do you guys do?
Go ahead, Renee.
I work in a center over here in Pinellas County. I'm working with the toddlers. I also am an ambassador for fairy dust teaching. I've gone through their Wonderled training and their leadership training. And I have my own Facebook page that I blog on.
That sounds really cool. I was hearing fairy dust. I'm like, that sounds amazing. I don't know what it is, but I know I want more. That sounds really cool.
And I'm Kelly. I'm a VPK teacher here in Sebastian, Florida. I've been teaching for about 16 years and still love it.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think we can learn a lot from each other. I know I'm always learning from Dr. Drew and Julie for sure. So I'll just share some stuff and then we can just chat about it. Okay. Because why change something if it's working amazing? Let's just keep adding more stuff to it and just keep it growing, right? Sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I tweaked it a little bit, as you can see, because I just kind of like took out some other stuff and left the brain stuff because, Julie and I love the brain stuff. So
We do love the brain stuff.
yes, so I kept some of that stuff in there. Okay. So I kind of want to focus our conversation and our discussion today together around, the brain, because we know so much more about the brain now than we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I know when I went to school, like we weren't talking about the brain, maybe fantasizing like, oh, maybe one day we'll know, but that's so far in the future, like whatever, right? Like it wasn't like a topic of conversation, right? And more and more I see people graduate. I'm like, you learned that in school? Like, I want to know more. So I actually went back to teaching so I could like sit in all those classes for free, right? And like learn as much as I could. Because I'm like, yes, I'm gonna co-teach, aka learn everything. You know what I mean? And so that way I could learn all this stuff and then share and we could use it in all of our practices, right? Because this is like the way of the future. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I also teach. And so I always tell my students, I go, like, social work is amazing, but if you don't integrate the brain stuff, like forget CBT, forget all the other cool therapy stuff that was really amazing 10 years ago. Like that's nice, but the brain is the future, right? So we can use this to be able to understand the importance of our relationships. And as teachers, and I'm hearing fairy dust going off in my head, I know that the most important thing that you have when you are with your babies and your toddlers is your relationship with them, is that connection, right? Like that is the way that you make them eat their vegetables. That's the way that you make them, come inside from the playground. That's the way that you make them, go to sleep, right? Like all those things really are based in relationships. And we're going to talk a little bit about like why and how those relationships are actually like the foundation for mental wellness, right? Because people hear mental health and they're like, oh no, that's so scary. And really, mental health, the idea of mental health is to be mentally well, right? And to be okay, right? Because one of the biggest things that we need to do is to be able to prevent any like worse things, right? But if we're not actively trying to prevent and keeping ourselves well, then we're doing the opposite, right? So, okay. Are you guys tired? It's been a long day.
But
Oh yeah. Okay. So remember that polyvagal massage thing that we did? Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
since we're talking so much about the brain today, I'm gonna talk about the polyvagal nerve. Okay, I don't know if you guys have heard of what that is. So we have found that our systems and our emotions and our bodies and our health really are based on our brains, right? And what happens with our brains. And the polyvagal nerve is the main brain, the main nerve that comes from our brain all the way down our spine to, all the way down our spine, all the way, and it affects, how like when you get nervous and your stomach gets upset, that's the polyvagal nerve. You know how when you feel like really good, you have like tingles because you feel so good? Maybe you got some good news or whatever. That's the polyvagal nerve. So that really like affects like our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, and our body. So it's that mind, body, soul connection. That's a really big, that's like one of the central physical brain stuff that happens to it. So when we're feeling really stressed or just really annoyed, right? Like I say that example, right? Julia says, you have that like toddler that just threw the toy at the other one's head, right? You're just going like, not again, right? Again, like I just told you 2 minutes ago that we don't throw toys, right? So before you go over there and yell at them, because that's maybe what we want to do, we can try to reset ourselves and calm ourselves and kind of calm our bodies and our nervous systems by massaging our polyvagal nerve. So there's a couple of different places that you can do, like have easy access that maybe nobody will notice, right? Because we want that too. And it really comes from like old Chinese medicine type stuff. Okay, so one part, and I'm gonna have you guys explore it on yourselves, okay? Right behind your ear, like there's this bone here, right? You guys feeling it? So just take your 2 fingers and just rub up and down the bone, like from the bottom of the bone to the middle of the ear. So I want you guys to just do that and breathe. Yeah, double-handed, girl. What?
I feel better already.
Yeah. No one will know that you're doing that. You're like, okay, relax, Noemi. We're not going to yell. We're going to talk to that child and remind them again how they're not to throw things, right? And some calming self-talk. I can do this. I'm going to just sprinkle some fairy dust and things will be better. I'm telling you, you got to tell me what that is later. We'll take a few deep breaths. The deeper that we breathe, part of it is that it gets our blood going, and then any toxins that come from being stressed, right, actually help to flow away from our hearts and into being able to be digested out of our systems, basically. So the more we drink water and the more that we breathe, the more that those toxins are able to flow in the right direction to get out of our bodies, and so that way we feel better. Okay? Yeah, right? Cool stuff. They always told you, drink some tea, drink some water. There's actually science to prove that that's actually a good thing when you're stressed. Drink some tea, drink some water, because you're going to get all that stuff out. Okay, so that's my little start. Okay. We kind of start this conversation a little bit, just keeping in mind of all the things that we've all been through, right? And we were just talking about when we got COVID, right? When I got COVID with my family and what all that was like. And I feel pretty blessed, because we didn't have to go to the hospital, and how many people did have to go to the hospital and never came out, people lost their jobs, how many people, the centers closed, they reopened, like so much turmoil these last 18 months now. And just like it's been stressful for us, it's been stressful for our babies. Right?
Yeah.
Because we think, oh, but they don't know, like they're so little, whatever. But y'all on the front lines, I know you all know that, babies feel it, right? And so they feel it from us. And no matter how stressed we are, we have to take care of ourselves, because that way, we can take care of them better and they don't have to feel energy with us. What do you guys think? I want to hear from you.
I think the words self-care have really resonated with people in the past almost 2 years of dealing with this pandemic. I think it's still a conversation, not necessarily something that's being acted upon, because we've been so ingrained in our previous behaviors we know what self-care is supposed to look like. We know we're supposed to do it. And I speak we, but I really also mean me. It's still trying to make it a priority. And how quickly, when things settle back to the norm, we revert back to those old behaviors. And so it's just changing that thought process.
For sure. I don't know how it is back up there, but down here, it's like nothing ever happened. So people are still working from home, but working double the hours from home. And people wear masks and people don't. And it's like if COVID was never here. But now instead of, doing victory gardens and taking an hour a day for that, we're doing just 5 hours more work because working from home. So how are you guys doing your self-care?
Not as good as I should. I know I should be doing more self-care, but it always seems like there's one more thing to put above that, and one more lesson plan that I could do that I wouldn't have to do the next week, or one other behavior that I should look into that would help the classroom run smoother. And then finally, self-care, the bubble bath that was going to be 20 minutes turns into about 12 seconds. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Self-care for me has been, sorry, excuse me, a priority for like the past 10, 11 years, actually.
I need to learn from you.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like, my husband's always telling me, like, it's not a priority until something happens, right? And then all of a sudden it's kind of late because you already did a lot of damage. There's still some things you can do, but being that preventive, right? Because like we want to prevent for our kiddies, like we need to prevent for ourselves, and now we can't be there for them. Right? So these are some of the things, right, that, and we're not going to go into details. We can kind of go on, and this is a whole other, like, meditation and discussion, right? Also pointing out all the diversity that just keeps on coming out. And I don't know in your area how diverse it is, but Miami, like, there's so, like, we have people from the Caribbean, from South America, from Europe, from Africa, from name a continent, and I've met somebody from the continent. You know what I mean? It's amazing down here, but then it's also very segregated. Also, there's lots of division as well. And kind of being able to try to look at our own stuff and our own biases to kind of look beyond that to bridge some of those gaps. And knowing that sometimes that folks that come through our door that you're like, oh my God, like, what's his mom doing? Like, oh my God, like, I would never do that to my kid, right? Like, who knows what sort of stuff happened in their background that's the only way they know how to parent, And then, like, my worldview, like growing up in Hialeah and, in the mostly Cuban city of Miami, like, is very different, right, than the way you grew up, Julie, right? Like, and I bet you there's a lot of similarities because we're very similar too. But I bring that up to say that there's this concept of infant mental health, right? Because we're talking about infant mental health today in the brain and our histories. That when we work with infants, we actually also work with the parents, right? So one of the things we talk with the parents is, who were your angels and ghosts in the nursery? We ask that because no matter how hard it was when you were little, no matter how many ghosts you had, whether it was your father or your mother or some aunt or the neighbor down the street or whatever damage was happening, right? That all that affects who we are today, right? There's always some angels. There was an angel somewhere, right? And trying to help the parent figure out who was the angel, so that way we can try to emulate that angel, right? And sometimes the angel was that teacher. Sometimes the angel was the godmother, was the cousin, but sometimes it was the daycare director.
Mhm.
You know, there was those 8 hours a day that they could go and be with Miss Kelly, you know, and then it could be safe and nurturing, and where Miss Renee could sprinkle the fairy dust and do all the amazing things I'm so curious to learn about. Right? Have you guys ever heard that those terms, angels and ghosts in the nursery? Yeah.
I only heard it from you.
Cool. So being mindful, being empathetic, knowing ourselves, right? Knowing the lenses that we came from, all of that will help us move beyond like our own barriers. Because I have my barriers, right? We all have our barriers to be able to see, you know, the child, the children, our colleagues in front of us. Now for what type of parents we think they should be, or what type of teacher we think they should be, or why doesn't that child keep on, you know, why does he keep on throwing the blocks at the other little girl, you know, like, but then seeing beyond that, right? And seeing, well, there's more to whatever's happening than what's actually happening.
Mhm.
Okay. No, I actually don't have the book today. I don't. I'm
That's
still looking. I might have it by here because I bought a few copies. Hold on. I'm at the office. I'm not at my
Kelly, you have to get this for your class. It's a great, knowing how you teach, Kelly.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen this book?
I haven't, no.
I
Not
had
only
the
is it
extra ones.
it's a
I bought-
fantastic book, but it also you can make a flannel board out of this. It's phenomenal.
Oh, really? That's great.
So
It is a good book.
Oh, you've had it? You have it?
I would have bought
No.
it the day I made it. I went
Sorry
out
if
and
my
bought
throat's.
it.
Yes.
I was there at the summit in Hillsborough when you read it.
That's so cool. You want me to read it again?
I do.
Yes, yes.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Let me see. I took off my background. Yes, my office actually really does look like the picture. You see that? But it's at night. There's no palm trees outside now because it's at night. So wait, where did I do that? Oh. My screen feels so small to compare to how we usually do this. But I'm like, where's the off button? Okay, there. Okay. All right. So here's Rosie's brain. Okay. Hey, Rosie. It's a brand new book, never opened. It's been in my office, waiting for children to come in here. Okay. All right. You guys see it okay?
Mhm.
All right. Rosie woke up. Oh, do I have an echo? No. Okay. Rosie woke up on Saturday morning feeling excited. She had plans to play frisbee with her best friend Henry. She got dressed and ran downstairs for breakfast. Her mom said, "Good morning," and handed her a bagel with cream cheese. "Hurry up and eat. We have to leave in a few minutes to your piano lesson," she added. Rosie froze. Piano lesson? What? That can't be right, she thought. No piano. No piano, no piano, no, she screamed. She threw her bagel onto the floor. Her dog Tulip quickly ran over and carried it away to save for later. Let me see the puppy. Rosie's mom was surprised, but she said calmly, "Rosie, you're flipping your lid. Why don't you go back up to your room and try to calm down? We can talk about this in a little while." Rosie was furious, but she stomped back upstairs and slammed the door to her room. She sat down on her favorite chair. She noticed that she was breathing really hard, like she had just run around a track a bunch of times. She also noticed that her face felt hot and her hands were scrunched up into little balls. She opened her mouth to scream some more, but instead of her own voice, she heard a voice coming from the corner of her room. "This is totally unfair. We had plans. It's Saturday. I don't want to go to piano. Wow!" Rosie looked in the corner and saw a little girl sitting in the laundry basket. She looked to be a little younger than Rosie with pigtails sticking on the side of her head. Who are you? Asked Rosie. I'm your amygdala, she said, but you can call me Amy. No one ever says my real name right. My arugula? Said Rosie. No, arugula is like lettuce. I'm your amygdala. It's a part of your brain. Rosie touched her head. My brain? Yep, said Amy. I'm the part of your brain that reacts to things. I help you keep you safe. I'm always watching for bad things. In my book, there are only two ways to handle a problem: fight it or run it away. Works every time. Well, it works sometimes. Remember that time your friend Henry knocked over your Lego tower and you screamed and pushed him over backwards? Yeah, that was me, said Amy. Are you the reason I threw my bagel on the floor and slammed the door? Asked Rosie. Me again, said Amy. Huh, said Rosie. So I'm here now because of this whole play date disaster. I think this is possibly the worst thing that has ever happened, shouted Amy. You see, Amy? Now hold on there a second, Amy, said a sweet voice. That's not quite true. Don't you remember when Rosie sat in dog poop at recess? That was much worse. Rosie turned and saw a kind-faced woman with round glasses and curly hair piled up on a big bun on top of her head. Who are you? Asked Rosie. I'm your hippocampus, dear, but you can call me Miss Pickles. My hippo what? Asked Rosie in surprise. Hippocampus, dear. I'm another part of your brain. I'm the part of your brain that stores all the memories. I take everything that you see, hear, and do and store these memories away in your brain, just like books in the library. Do you remember that time you hit a home run in the baseball game? Of course I do, said Rosie, beaming. You're welcome, said Miss Pickles. Oh, well, thanks, I guess, said Rosie, but I wish you hadn't reminded me about the dog poop. Ugh. Sorry, said Miss Pickles, but why are you called Miss Pickles if you're my hippocampus? Asked Rosie. Because your hippocampus is shaped like a little pickle, said Miss Pickles. Hey, don't forget about me, shouted Amy. I'm still really mad. I think we should go downstairs and tell Mom that we're never, ever going to go piano lessons again. And then we should take a big hammer and smash the piano into a million pieces. Now, Amy, you're getting carried away. Let's take a moment to think this over, said a calm voice over by the window. Oh, thank goodness it's PFC, said Miss Pickles. PF who now? Asked Rosie. Hello, Rosie. I'm your prefrontal cortex, PFC for short. I'm the part of your brain that thinks things over and makes good decisions. Rosie looked over and saw a tall, kindly woman wearing a big peace sign necklace. Amy was screaming and yelling and throwing laundry out of the basket. Amy, please settle down so we can think, said PFC calmly. I can't, shouted Amy. I'm so angry. And I'm feeling is getting bigger and bigger. And Rosie, dear, don't you remember what your mom tells you when you're about to flip your lid? Asked Miss Pickles. Your mom says that when you're really angry or upset, it's like your brain has flipped its lid and your amygdala, points to Amy, takes over. You need to get your PFC back in charge. But how? Asked Rosie, covering her ears to block out Amy's noise. As I recall, your mom says that taking a slow, deep breath will help calm Amy down and let you think again. Do you remember how to do it? Asked Miss Pickles. Oh, yeah. We've been practicing mindful breathing, Rosie said, and she sat down and closed her eyes. She took a slow, deep breath in through her nose. Everybody do it now. In through your nose and out through your mouth. When she breathed in, she imagined that she had a little balloon in her belly and it was filling up with air. When she breathed out, she imagined she was letting the air out of the balloon. She breathed slowly in and out for a while until she noticed that it was much quieter in her room. She looked over and saw Amy all curled up in the laundry basket taking a nap. Well, that's better, said PFC. Now that we're calm, let's figure out how to solve our problem. Good night, Amy. That's the same thing that happens when you drink that glass of water. Your body changes and it calms down the Amy. The thing is, said Rosie, I made plans to play Frisbee with Henry, but I forgot all about my piano lesson. Oops, sorry about that. I must have stored that memory on the wrong shelf, said Miss Pickles, wandering off to look for it. That's okay, said PFC. I've got an idea. Why don't you ask Henry if he can meet you at the playground after your piano lesson? That's a great idea, said Rosie. I actually really like my piano lesson. I was just excited to play Frisbee. Gee, it's so much easier to think now that I'm calm. Oh, Rosie, don't you think there's something else that you need to do now? Asked Miss Pickles. Rosie jumped up and said, right, thanks for reminding me, Miss Pickles. Rosie opened up her door and almost tripped over Tulip, who was happily gnawing on her bagel. Rosie ran downstairs and found her mom drinking her tea. Mom, I'm really sorry I screamed at you and threw my bagel on the floor. That's all right, Ro. We all flip our lids sometimes, said Mom. Yeah, that's for sure. But once Miss Pickles and PFC helped me calm down Amy, I felt much better, said Rosie. Rosie's mom looked confused, but she was glad the tantrum was over, and she smiled and said, okay, honey, that's great. Want a bagel? Cinnamon raisin, your favorite. Thanks, Mom. Hey, is it okay if I play Frisbee with Henry after my piano lesson? Sounds like a great plan, said Mom. Tulip waited hopefully for another bagel to drop, but this time Rosie ate the whole thing. The end.
Loved it.
Loved it.
The book.
What do you guys think? You think some of your kiddos could get around this book?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Awesome. So part of a larger training is how we can incorporate these sort of things all throughout our day academically, right? So that way we can be teaching about like these social emotional, things and brain related stuff, right? So that way, like my kids all the time, and now Julie, your daughter was listening. So they'll be like, it's my Amy. My son will tell my daughter, your Amy's out of control, put her back. And she's like, oh, okay, you're right. And then she'll go to her room and breathe or calm down or do whatever she does. And then come back and it's a little better after that, right? So it's neat because you have the power of the group in your class, right? And when you get some of the kids involved and the other ones kind of get going, you can really like feed off each other to, have them help each other calm down and do well. What do you think?
I love how this book brings in why the behavior happens. I think a lot of times we don't give kids enough, especially older, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. We don't give them enough credit on their capacity to learn and understand. And, we're always taught acknowledge the emotion. But some of your other kids are ready to understand, if I dare be so brave, is the science behind the behavior. And in a fun way. That's why I love this book, Amy the Amygdala. I mean, how easy is that to remember?
And then we also do the hand model And I suggest you guys, there is some like videos and some different things to be able to talk about the hand model of the brain, because when you flip your lid, literally flipping your lid, right? Like this is the brain. When we flip our lid, our amygdala, you know, is out of control. And then our PFC, this is the prefrontal cortex, is no longer in control. So then all we are is, you know, a bag full of emotions ready to fight, flight, or freeze, right? And I know scientists have done a little bit more work on some more of these, but you know, we're guilty too. Like, let's say I'm not feeling very well, I'm a little cranky for whatever reason, and my husband says something and I flip my lid, I better shut up, because whatever's going to come out of my mouth after that is not going to be pretty, and it's probably not even going to be true or accurate, right? And so when kids start to remember that and know, hey, well, how do I put my lid back on? You know, there are literally ways to biologically re-regulate your body to put that lid back on, put Amy to sleep again, so that way you can think clearly, right? That's the real reason behind timeout. That's how it's supposed to work. Go take a break, have a timeout, rethink, do your skill, do whatever you do, then come back and let's fix the problem. That's not how we use it, but that's the way we're supposed to use it. Right? How much time do I have left, Julie? I don't want to.
About 5 to 6 minutes.
Perfect. So now that we've talked about the brain and I've shared with you this awesome book, okay, I'm going to share with you this last video. Okay. This slow face experiment, and we get on this all the time. Have you guys seen this? I don't want to play something so you guys have seen it. You've seen it, Kelly? All right. Renee, have you seen it? Okay. So you can help us, Kelly, in this one. Hello, Crystal. Welcome. So back in the day, this is a video from the 80s. We like the classics, right, Julie? So this is a video from the 80s talking about like the still face experiment and how, and you'll see what happens in the video. But now what we know is that it's more than just a still face and how the baby reacts to the still face, right? And we'll see now what happens. But it's actually that we actually have mirror neurons that live behind our eyes. And this works so much better in person, but if I look at you, or you look at your daughter's face or your son's face, you look at someone you love and you smile and they smile at you and you're looking at them and like you make this eye contact, that feeling is like, it's contagious. You know what I'm talking about? Right? So the opposite is also true. When you don't feel well and you're like, oh, I don't want to be here. Sorry, I don't like y'all. I gotta go. You know what I mean? Like when you don't feel good and you're with that person and you look at their eyes and you're like, oh, that transmits too, right? And these are these mirror neurons that are connecting with each other and kind of mirroring, copying each other. Isn't that cool? So like we talked about earlier, like COVID, all this stuff, right? Well, when you bring who you are to the class and to really anywhere that you are, right? And you could show up in a pleasant, loving, nurturing way, the response is so much different than when you come and you don't feel well, right? So check out what happens. And yes, this is from the 80s and you'll still face, but what's really happening with those mirror neurons, and you kind of see this. I've gotten feedback that it's better for me to narrate it. I'm not gonna like it, and I don't think that it even needs this dude to say anything. Okay, so this was actually done by someone that I know. That's someone that I know. So this is actually an actual therapist with their baby girl. Their baby is already in their 20s. So that she comes in, and what's happening? What is she doing? You guys help me narrate because it's just us. Come on, Kelly.
Okay, so she's having fun and she's interacting and she's smiling and touching, and her eyes are energetic, and the baby's pointing back and jabbering.
Yeah. She's touching her foot, and oh, the baby loved it. She got tickled, and mama smiled back.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tell her, don't have any sort of expression on your face, just a flat, still expression, not anger, not sadness, nothing, just serious.
Mm-hmm. And
And let's see how the baby reacts. What's happening, guys?
Yeah, She's wanting mom to respond. She's wanting her to change the expression she has on her face. She's even smiling herself to see if mom will respond to her.
What's wrong with you?
Yes, she's getting upset. She's not liking it at all still. Uh-oh. Yeah,
You know it's coming. You know what that sounds like, right? We don't need the volume for that one.
right.
Well, that high pitched screech.
Mhm.
She's like, but is there something behind me that I don't get?
Right,
So smart.
right,
Ah, mommy. That's it. Total meltdown.
right.
See those mirror neurons. And now, what is mommy saying? You know what she's saying? It's okay, my baby. I'm here. And what does the baby do?
Totally back to the original. Yep,
Back to center.
happy. Yep.
Yep. So, what were you thinking, Dr. Drew? I saw you over there.
I'm thinking this whole presentation, this sharing that you're doing, Naomi, is so beautiful and so important for us to understand. For me to remember to practice exactly what you're sharing with us tonight. It's a beautiful presentation, Naomi. Thank you so much for being here. No, really, the points you're making are extraordinarily important to the health and well-being of all of us. It's not just those little children. We act the same way as the children. You know, if someone doesn't look at us with love and acceptance, we act the same way. We close down. It's so beautiful, your presentation, your wisdom, and the way you're sharing it. It's just, I'm so glad I'm here with you, Naomi. As Julie was saying, when we were together before at those little summits, those were special times. And to revisit it tonight with you like this is even better than before. It's more intimate, like we're, you know, it's virtual, but we're so close. There's just a few of us sharing. It's very important. You know, when Amy realized what was going on, and when you calm the child down, or when you calm the adult down, all that energy begins to flow positively, just like you were saying. Yeah, it's beautiful. No, I mean, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I never know what to say because you're so amazing that hearing that from you, I thank you.
No, but all of us are amazing. You know how it is. It isn't just me. It's you and Julie and Kelly.
And Renee and Crystal.
We're all amazing.
Mhm.
And we must remember that as best we can, because the doubt slips in, you know, oh, I'm not creative, or I'm not very smart, or I'm not, all those knots unravel and just become the flowing energy. Is so important what you're sharing. I want to calm that other part of my brain down. You know, the breathing, calming through the breathing, calming through the play, you know, taking time to play. Oh, it's wonderful, Naomi, really, really.
And reflecting here with you guys, you know, I think, what is play? How does play calm our nervous systems?
Yeah.
It's a mindful act to be in the present moment, to just enjoy the child, enjoy the toy, explore, like if you've never seen it before, right? Listen like you've never heard before. In that moment when you're playing with each other, when you're sharing that space, that's like miraculous things unfolding right in front of you. You know?
We were practicing breathing today, weren't we? And can you tell them why we had to practice breathing today?
Because I got a flu shot.
And yeah, she was exceptionally anxious, and she was such a powerhouse in her own advocacy. And she said to the doctors and nurses, wait a minute, I have to breathe. Like she stopped the doctors and the nurse in their tracks. And she put her arms like this to say, I need a minute to breathe. And I watched, you were phenomenal. You were so phenomenal on taking that time as 7 years old and practicing what we've been teaching our kids is to stop in the moment. She was getting unregulated. She knew she had to get back into control of that. And she breathed it out. And then it was over, right? And she said, it really didn't hurt. But it was the fact that, oh yeah, her Band-Aid. But it was the fact of, this is an example of somebody who's taken those strategies. When you're giving children the strategies and you walk the journey with the child. And I know that's hard in a classroom. Kelly, I know you've got 20 something kids, and Renee, you've got a bunch of little ones running around. And it's hard to really walk that journey with every child. But when you can walk the journey with that child or with that an adult, the difference, because then you don't have to regulate the child, but they have the internal ability to do it on their own. And that's really the mental health we're talking about. It's taking ownership and power, if you will, of your own mental health. And in essence, the 7-year-old did better self-care than I did all day.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's so hard for us, right, Kelly? I'm there with you and Julie too. And I want my daughter to do better. And I want my son to do better, to be able to know how to regulate their emotions from now and know when to say, you know what, I need to break right now and I need to go take a walk. You know what I mean? Because I need that for myself. So it's
I
beautiful.
did pre-K a couple years ago for 1 year. I won't get into that, but when we would come in from outside, I would do this transition as we were coming in from outside, and I would hum and do a hum, and they would learn, and I would do different breathing techniques with them as we were doing that and sitting down and washing our hands and getting ready for lunch or something. I would do like different animal noises for the breathing, like the bumblebee breath,
Those are great.
or or the bunny breath or the lion breath, and they loved it. So it was that mindfulness with myself and with the kids, and we had fun with it. And I actually try to do that a little bit with the toddlers in my care now, and some of them are getting it. I've got, even like with blowing bubbles, I have 2 toddlers that know how to blow bubbles, my older toddlers, and a 3rd one getting the hang of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff now online, that all these little videos that talk about all these things. There's one like with the faucet that you like,
Yeah.
you get all the energy and then you go, psh,
That's,
you get all the energy.
remember the faucet one too.
There's so many things. So, YouTube and the internet really are our best friends nowadays. Might as well, if it exists, we might as well use it and make our lives easier. And I love what you said, Renee, right? Like, it was mindfulness for them, but it was also mindfulness for you, right?
Yeah.
You needed, we need it too.
Yeah.
When I practice it with my clients, I'm doing it for myself too.
Absolutely.
Well, and we're modeling it for them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Be able to demonstrate and practice ourselves. It's like they say, put your oxygen mask on yourself first before helping others.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are some of the basic stuff that we kind of covered tonight, right?
Mhm.
When someone is emotionally dysregulated, right? They have flipped their lid, right? Especially with little ones, within the context of this safe, right? Safety, very important, safe and nurturing relationship, right? Which would be the relationship with you, with their angels in the nursery, right? Within the context of a safe, nurturing relationship. And then hopefully the environment is also safe and nurturing environment, right? You get those mirror neurons, you're able to calm down, you're able to connect with them, you're able to embrace them in that moment, right? And this whole thing, right, will help them to regulate their emotions, right? Because when we're little, we're learning about those emotions for the very first time. And we have no idea what this is and how to handle it. It's like a wave of emotions that are like just so big and overpowering that, I live on the beach. You guys are close to the beach. So I imagine I love the West Coast. I'm going to move to the Gulf Coast. I swear one day that's my dream. Because on this beach side over here, the waves come in and they drag you to the bottom. And that's how the way that the kids feel, right? Like they get dragged with the huge emotions. And sometimes they're like struggling for breath to try to figure out what's going on with this huge emotion. And we're there to keep them safe. And we're there to nurture them and be like, it's okay. I know you have this wave that's suffocating you right now, but breathe. I'm here. You're safe. You're giving them your energy. Your mirror neurons are working, connecting, and then they regulate because you're there to keep them safe. And you're there to like, it's like a little kid, right? They get sucked under by the wave and you go, bloop. That's what we're doing when we're using, understanding the flipping of the lid, understanding all these things, understanding mirror neurons and how we can help them get through these days and the importance of those relationships that you're building, which really scientifically we know, emotionally we know, but scientifically we know too that the relationships they have with you guys at early childhood really is the basis of relationships throughout the rest of their life.
Yes. Naomi, I have one final question before we move on to our next thing. First of all, thank you. Make sure you put your contact information in the chat before you. But I do have a question with regards, and if you don't know, that's fine too. But with regards to, we're talking about those mirror neurons, and we understand that children that are sensory perception or on the autism spectrum have difficulty making those visual connections, those eye connections. Is there another strategy, or has there not been really enough science to show some way to connect with those kids with regards to that?
The other piece still remains true, right? And like, remember, it's not that it's a different I'm going to use the word neuroception, right?
Okay.
So what's happening with mirror neurons and our brains and our bodies are polyvagal that we actually have this, how perception, we perceive things.
Right.
There's actually neuroception, which our nervous systems perceives outside, right? And they kind of like, I know if you're upset because I can feel it, right? Like I'm perceiving it and my feelers are out there and I'm going, oh no, like she's upset. That's something with this. So regardless, it may be like an altered neuroception, but they're still feeling like they still know when you're upset. They still know when it's safe. They still know when, things are different, but they still know when things are safe.
Okay.
So for example, maybe touching is not what we need to do, right? Depending on the child, maybe some other sort of sensory stuff, maybe it's too stimulating. So we need to quiet them down. That will help, right? So depending on the sensitivity of the child, integrating that into your safety, right? Because maybe it's so noisy that's unsafe. So you can build that safe space by taking them into a less quiet, place.
Okay.
And then you don't touch them, you don't like, who they are and you know what not to do. So, but the neuroception is there.
And that's
different.
And exactly, that's kind of what I was trying to figure out. I mean, those are the strategies that I would use, but I know that as we see, as we have more children coming into our programs, many of them with unique sensory perception concerns, or just whatever reason we're seeing, it seems that we see more of that now than never. And you can't always make that eye contact, or they react to touch or whatever. And so coming up with strategies for teachers when there's 15 kids in a classroom and they've got 2 that are sensory concerns, if that child, as we know, when children don't feel safe, they'll tend to destruct, and children that feel safe will tend to construct. And so just if you ever have any strategies down the line, we don't have much time tonight, but please feel free to put that in the chat. We'd love to have that.
Yeah, there's definitely something we could talk about more, right? matching the
Absolutely.
learning about the senses and matching them with the corresponding you know,
Right.
interaction.
That's just so much of what we do in the play realm, is allowing children to decompress and to create and to be part of that experience in the play realm, so that they are more sensorially regulated, so that they can become more emotionally regulated.
Right. And diagnostically, and again, we won't get into that, but autism isn't the only diagnosis that kids are getting because of sensory issues.
Right.
There's sensory issues all on their own, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to be diagnosed with autism to have sensory issues.
Correct.
And sometimes we see ADHD, which is actually really sensory, or we see PTSD, which causes sensory.
Right.
So there's so much, and it's all
Yes.
similar, but it's not the same. So I hear ya. You're my heroes. I'll say it again.
Noemi, it's really been a pleasure to have you on as our guest tonight. Folks, we hope you hang in there with us for a few more. We have Dr. Walter Drew coming up in just a moment to have some open creative play. And then myself on just a real brief overview of using recyclable materials during the holidays, including some of that sensory exploration for kids. So Naomi, I know that you have another appointment to get to, so we will surrender you for that. Her information is in the chat. And with that, Dr. Drew, I invite you in with us.
Yes, I am happy to be before I share my thoughts about the play. I wanted to just come back to Noemi.
Sure.
Before you take off, I just want to say again how much I appreciated your present this evening. And I kept thinking as you were talking about Amy and calming the senses and focusing the mind and breathing, that tomorrow and the next day we're going to be in those spaces with other adults and children.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering if there's any way of any of us present tonight to sort of record an experience you have after this evening and send an email back that connects your practice with what Noemi is sharing with us this evening. In other words, is there any evidence? There will be evidence tomorrow or the next day of you actually applying consciously with intentionality something that you learned this evening.
Mhm.
Maybe you already knew it and you were reminded about how
Exactly.
important it is, you know. And with that idea in mind, I wanted to suggest to you for 5, maybe 3 minutes, an activity this evening, focusing the mind, calming our attention, focusing for just a moment. This is like an open eye mindfulness practice. I think of it as self-active education, the self active in play. The self is that divine inner being that we are, our spirit, the spirit of the child. The spirit continues in the adult. So as we were little boys and girls, and the spirit was present with us, we now, as those same little boys and girls who are also adults, love for that aspect of our own existence to express itself in very simple, natural ways, loving ways. It's a self-care practice. And so if you have a few moments, and if you have any open-ended materials, if you happen to have some materials that will help, it could be anything that you have around, pebbles or stones. It could be fabric. It could be ribbon. It could be blocks, or it could be buttons. Imagine if you don't have them, that you have them. And just for, I'm going to say even 1 minute, rather than 5 minutes, I'm going to say 1 minute. let's just for the heck of it, practice some deep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, like Noemi, you were suggesting to us. I'm also going to suggest that as you're doing that, if you're in a comfortable, safe place without any disturbance, you just begin to focus your mind through your fingertips on those materials and go with the flow, so to speak. I'm going to keep time. I'll be the timekeeper. For 60 seconds, practice intentional focus on your breath, breathing, as you simply touch those materials. I hope you have some nearby. If you don't, then close your eyes and imagine you do, and try this with your eyes closed. But if you have those materials, just for 1 minute, I'm going to keep time. Just focus on your breath. And for 60 seconds, just go into touching those materials and moving them around for a moment. 60 seconds. Okay, that was 60 seconds. So in that 1 minute of focused contemplation, your mind calms down and allows the emotional state to be regulated automatically through the play. What happened during that period for you? Just, if you would, if you feel comfortable sharing your state of being in that play space, what did you think about? How did you feel? What was that experience for you? And we'll just open it up if anybody has a couple of words to say that could describe that. Anybody? Oh, here we go. Aha. Is this, oh, yes.
Just enjoying doodling and my 4 little hearts for my family, and just enjoying being in the moment and embracing that love without anything else.
Beautiful, Naomi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything, whatever it is? There's no judgment or evaluation here. It's just a little sharing of what happened spontaneously.
It just was very calming, and it really made me happy just to not think about anything else at all, to just play.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly, for sharing. Yeah.
Part of me is I'm a fidget. Having been diagnosed with ADHD when I was little, it's hard to sit still even for a minute. And so, I bring my little items. So I had been staring at these items this whole time, just eager to touch and manipulate. And it was a real joy to take even just a minute to finally meet that anticipation with a little bit of just chilling out and hanging out with my items.
Yeah. That's a wonderful connection you made, Julia, for those children who have difficulty focusing and staying with. That's why having objects, simple little things for them to fiddle with, helps them calm down. A bit of string or yarn, yes, yes. It's all about regulating that emotional state. And Renee, yeah. Are these little beads you have?
Yes, it's stones.
Stone.
Yeah, I made it into a bracelet on, actually I finished it. I took pictures of them and showed Julie on the last Zoom. Sometimes I'll take it off and just touch them
That's such a great,
and play with it.
I'll send you my address for Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye, Noemi. Thank you so much again.
My
Yeah.
pleasure.
Wonderful seeing you. Happy Thanksgiving to
Let's
you
keep
and the
in touch,
family.
you guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Likewise.
Okay, so, well, that was it, just a moment of applying the practice, so to speak, and to encourage you to do that with your children, as well as whenever you can with yourself. Intentional self-active play quietly by themselves, just to focus their minds. Yeah. Okay. Now I think we have a special treat from Julie. Julie, you've been wonderful this evening. Thank you so much for
Thank you for having
hosting and
me.
opening and guiding us in this time together.
What I wanted to share with you kind of falls in line with a couple of different things. And if I can get this, hold on 1 second. Please.
While Julie's looking, I want to put a plug in for a book. It's called Self-Active Play,
Yes.
and it's available on Amazon. And it's all about this process with classrooms, and also with adults, training adults who are suffering from sudden traumatic loss. And anyway, it's called Self-Active Play, available on Amazon. It's a neat little book.
Put it in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great little book. So I just wanted to just take a couple of minutes. And as you know, if you don't know, Dr. Drew has a reusable recycling. Where is it now? Remind me where in Melbourne. Where is
West
it?
Melbourne. Yeah.
West Melbourne.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's the recycling center is donations from companies of reusable, recyclable materials that can be used in the classrooms for various things. And one of the things that I love is allowing children to just connect with items, whether that is outdoor items, shells and sticks and things of that nature, as well as items that would have been throwaway items. And as the holidays come up, it's just reminding ourselves that don't need to be very expensive for children to explore. Some centers have tons of equipment and things, but as you know, give a child a box at Christmas and they're more interested in two things, the wrapping paper and the box. Right? They will play with a box and wrapping paper for a long time. And so part of that is reminding us that when we are working with young children and we're using these recyclable items, and I brought just a couple to show. Right now at thrift stores, they have so many opportunities for different textures of paper, tissue paper, bubble wrap, wrapping paper, aluminum foil, that can be used as a texture to if they're infants and toddlers, older infants and toddlers, to be able to crumple and feel those textures and mouth those textures. This was a whole thing of ribbon, different size ribbon I picked up for $1.50. And one of the great things that I loved about the ribbon is to be able to use, these are just I don't use toilet paper tubes. There was a study done that what's the last hand on those? So we used paper towel tubes. And what a great way for children to use this with old ribbons or scarves to thread, to make a little necklace around, to be able to just sensorily do something like this. So we've also had, many times you have these containers, the ribbon looks really beautiful, but all of a sudden it goes really fast and you're left with these beautiful rolled containers that could be used for all sorts of things. It could be used as a rolling thing down ramps. It could be used for ornaments. Again, you could have lacing. If you've got different sizes, they can be their own blocks. You can make bridges and all sorts of things. And these, how many of these do parents throw away every year, right? And so those are items that we can ask. As I mentioned, different ideas of paper. This is tissue paper. Listen to the sound. Little kids love the sound of the different papers. And yes, they're going to put it in their mouths, so just be aware of that. This was something that my different appliance stores, if I can pick it up, have these types of boxes, cardboard, that I've seen children create into like castles or houses or fairy gardens, gingerbread houses. And really, it's up to the imagination of the child. I've had some students that have painted it and then added little people inside, and this was like the terrace, or they've used the inside for storage or for, you know, carrying things around, and also just for building. These are all items that we can find that are being thrown in our landfills that we can use to decorate our classrooms, to encourage children to be creative problem solvers. This is just the milk jug. And we've seen it before where we cut them out and make bird feeders. But I've seen these also for older children being, once we cut some holes, and they can decorate it collage style with, like I said, the ribbon or the paper, and made little elf houses or fairy houses. And if not, just the fact that we could take items and put them in, shake it up for different sounds. And some of these things you might already be aware of. One of the things that I liked with toddlers or for infants when they were laying on their back was hanging different ribbons. It's kind of a Reggio / Montessori. And children are able to kick with their feet, little infants. I've seen where they've put small bells on the ends of these. And so as the children kick them or tap them with their hands as a grasping, they're able to just make a sound with a rattle or a small bell. And again, you can buy or even have donated scarves, pieces of ribbon, wrapping paper, paper towel, tubes. There is just so many opportunities for exploration of these reusable items that you can engage families for family engagement. You're engaging the children to use their creativity and their problem solving. It also, you know, for sensory purposes, there is so many opportunities to just envelop in their own play and explore. There was a time where we, in the school, and Kelly will know this, where we took the shredded paper and we put it into like a swimming pool or into the sand table, and it was shredded play sensory. And the children had a blast. And there was another time where we made the paper wet and almost like a pulp, and they could create things, you know, in that aspect. So there's so many things that we can encourage children to be a part of in the creative realm, using these recyclable, reusable items that we can have donated, or like I said, you could visit up at Walter's Recyclable Center in West Melbourne. I know they just moved. They're revamping a lot of things. There's some just phenomenal things happening up there. And so I hope that if anybody else has any other recyclable items, what I didn't bring in was Christmas cards. We get, although those are getting fewer every year, but we have our Christmas cards, and having some of your older students cut out the pictures and make collages, use them to tell stories, having them create gift tags for the bags if they're going to be sending a gift home. And this isn't just Christmas. This can be used at any festive occasion where there might be paper or cards or tags being. We do Hanukkah at our house as well as Christmas. And so trying to find creative ideas. We've used these to make Hanukkah candles before because of the varying size, and then put little lights in or glow sticks in order to celebrate the different days of Hanukkah that we've done. So I didn't want to take up a lot of time, but just as a reminder that as we go into the holiday season, instead of being crazy and busy trying to think of or buy new things for your classrooms, allow families to participate in their child's education by having them donate some items, contact your local thrift stores, your wood craft stores, such as cabinet building for things like sawdust and pieces of wood that they can work on. Some of your fabric stores and carpet stores will donate items if you ask them ahead of time. And that way you've had a plethora of new materials that are going to be wonderful for children to explore with. And if you need more further information, you can contact me or Walter. He's the one that really turned us all onto this. And I'm just so thrilled that we have a place so close in proximity in the East Coast of Florida and Melbourne. And so I encourage you to be taking a look at those items as we go into the holiday season. And again, remember, if I could be just so bold, it's about the process, not the product. It does not have to be a turkey with feathers on the back. It's more the process, the child's process of exploring with those materials, and not necessarily the product of a handprint turkey being sent home to show that you've accomplished something in the classrooms. So I hope, and again, if you have any recyclable creative ideas of items that you might use in your classrooms, please go ahead and put that in the chat, because as a Flacy Play Chapter affiliate, the idea is to come together as a networking opportunity. Yes, bring in guest speakers to share a specific part of knowledge. But when you combine Crystal and Kelly and Renee and myself and Walter's years of experience and different experiences, and we're able to combine those things together, we have hundreds of years of experience sitting right here in this room. And the ability to be able to chat and email with one another and say, this really touched me, or I'd love to learn more about that. It not only builds your level of professionalism here through the Flacy Play Chapter, it builds a level in your classrooms, trickles down to the children. And really, isn't that what this is about, right? Isn't that really where we're trying to make the greatest impact? So I hope that Renee and Kelly and Crystal, the small intimate group that we were able to be in tonight, has been a blessing to you, that maybe that there was a takeaway or a reminder that something you've known, but it's kind of rekindled a thought. And as we get ready to close tonight, I'm just honored to have all of you here. We will not be meeting in December, as I said. We'll pick it up again in January, so be aware of those emails. And please remember that there are other chapters if you so desire to look into them. You can go to the flacy.org page and learn about other events. Right now we had finished our conferences, so it's a little quiet at the moment. And I think anything else from you, Dr. Drew?
No, just well, maybe that little song from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, a blessing, sort of an Irish blessing. Part of my heritage is Irish. Perhaps some of you are Irish also. But the song goes like this to you and your work with children. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide you on your way. That's a lovely little reminder from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. thank you for being present. I'm going to go now and finish my supper and be with my family. Wishing all of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Thanksgiving. And thank you, Julie Perry Schwartz, for your work in supporting and strengthening the play chapter. And to all of you, Kelly and Renee, I'm not sure where you are, Crystal, but I am assuming you work with either children or adults. And my wishes are that you continue with strength and great wisdom to apply what you know and learned this evening in your own life and work. Thank you very much. It's nice to be
Happy
present.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for coming.
Yeah,
Guys.
come again. Yeah.
Yes.